I'm now going to show you how we achieve these lovely shapes to our Pyracantha. This is quite a large Pyracantha. It must be about, I would say, 45 to 60 centimeter tall, and the trunk is pretty big. Look at my hand next to it. The trunk is really thick, about 3 inches at the base, and it's full of berries. It's flowered and it's in lovely condition. And there's another one which is in the flower pot. I need to trim that back. I will show you how to trim this. But we grow this intensively by growing it in the gravel. I showed in another video how we get strong plants by growing in the gravel. So I will show you how these are developed over the years. So here we go. So here you are. There are more of these Pyracanthas that have been shaped very beautifully with lovely trunks and lovely foliage, and they're full of berries. But to get to this stage, here you are, there's some more. We've got lots of Pyracanthas. Look at that beautiful one. But they don't all start off like this. In order to get these massive thick trunks, see, that trunk is really thick. We grow them intensively by taking the partly trained trees and putting it in flower pots and standing it on gravel. Now let me go to my graveled area. I was telling you about how we grow all our trees on gravel. This is a gravel bed, and many of our trees are just stood on the gravel beds. So these trees here have been standing on these gravel beds for the last 2 years. And I can tell you that they are completely rooted, deeply rooted into the ground. I will get someone to hold the camera while I pull the tree out. Just hang on a minute. So here we are. These Pyracanthas have been standing on this gravel, as I said, for the last 2 years, and they've all thickened considerably in this time. So they've all got massive trunks, but now I've got to pull them out. And I do trim them from time to time, but they're so vigorous that they produce a lot of shoots. Let me see if I can get it out. I know I was doing some earlier on, and it took me almost like 2 minutes to pull it out. Some of them were so well rooted. So let me try and get this out. If you can come here, Jack, you can see the roots. I'm going to use a spade to try and get some of it out. I've got a lopper as well. I want to get it out with the roots to show you how vigorous the tree is. When they stand on gravel, they just go into the gravel. So this is what happens. The tree sends its roots in. Let me see, there's maybe another one which is even more deeply rooted. Now this one is not too bad. Who would think that growing bonsai involves doing this? But as I said, this is the substitute to growing the thing in the ground. If you grow it in the ground, you lose control completely. But if you grow it on gravel, you don't lose control completely, but you still strengthen the trunks a lot. So this is what I'm going to do this evening. I can get probably about 4 done in about 2 hours. They will take quite some time to trim. And that's with me working fast. Of course, growing on gravel makes the watering easier. So because the roots are in there, they don't dry out so easily. So, look at that. So this is what I've got out. So I've got this one out. Now what am I going to do? First of all, let's get rid of these roots. We don't need the roots anymore. They will go into large plastic bonsai pots. They look better in that. But the first thing to do is to get rid of some of the unwanted branches. So Each tree is slightly different, but the pruning principles are going to be the same. So I will place this on the turntable. As I said, I did these yesterday. These were done yesterday, so let's work on these just now. So here's this one. And we are so eco-friendly. Look at this, lots of ladybirds too. So now this is a complete tangle of branches, but don't worry, all these branches have fed into the trunk, and this has helped the trunk to thicken. There are some low branches which I never remove, because the low branches here are the sacrificials which help to make the nebari and make the trunk at the base thicker. So because these won't be needed in the design, I can safely take these off. I try to determine which is the front and which is the back, because that gives me a better idea as to which branches to keep and which to remove. There's always one side that is nicer than the other. Fortunately, the branches are not too long on this one. I think this may be a possible front. Upward pointing branches I don't need. And the overall shape, remember, is always conical. So this is what we call structural pruning. I'm getting the structure of the tree right. Pyracantha is such a vigorous tree that I have no worries about it producing branches. They will produce branches almost overnight. It may seem very drastic, but believe you me, it will turn out okay. And making sure that I leave branches evenly spaced. It is such a nasty tree because the branches are very prickly, full of thorns. And it's a very popular tree for growing as a barrier or a hedge, because this keeps intruders out. So you can see that I'm really creating the structure again. Far too many branches, we don't need them. This is where the less is more principle applies. Very important lesson in bonsai is always to remember that less is more. Once the structure is right, you can then fill it up with the detail at a later stage, if the structure is not right, you will have to go back to square one to create the right structure again. So it's worth spending time on the structure. So what I've done by growing it on these gravel beds here is really just to create the trunk. Now you can see this is a very nice front from here as well. You see how nice it looks like that, and I can discard the back one. That is a possible front. This is also a possible front. So I've got two possible fronts with this tree. So that is how I've done this one, and that didn't take more than 5 minutes. Let me show you one I did yesterday, because this one's got a beautiful trunk. Look at the detail of this one. Look at the detail of this with a hollow trunk. Absolutely marvelous. So that's a nice thick one, thick and dumpy. Now let's deal with the other one that I pulled out. This is some 3.5. Look at all these roots that come through the base. This is what makes the watering easier, because they get the water from the gravel, directly from the gravel. And now the base. It takes years and years to create a beautiful trunk. And what I'm doing is improving it further. Okay, so this is leaning nicely. So this is a very nice design or style. I think some of these can be wired to get it more horizontal. So that's a matter of detail. I don't want too many branches springing upwards. The structure is there. I'm just checking it out, and if any branch is in the wrong place, I remove it. This is what I'm doing. The branches should be horizontal because the pads are going to be horizontal. Anything going upwards, I'm going to cut off. Like that. This is going upwards, I'll cut that off. Front. Far too many branches. There's a potential leader going that side as well. Still try to choose the nicest front. This looks nice from this side. Okay, so that one probably can come out. These trees have been growing in full sun for these last few months, so they've produced some very rough and coarse burnt leaves. If I put it in a shade house or the shade tunnel, they will get nice and green again. this is how it's going to look. Because we are only in the 3rd week in July, I still have a lot of time to get a full crop of new leaves. So that's how I've trimmed that one. So that mass of branches I've trimmed back to that, which is the structure. So that's the second one done. I will just do one more for good measure. As I say, every tree is different. So again, get rid of these roots. I don't need these roots. And you notice that with this sort of pruning, I'm not using bonsai tools at all. I'm just using the trusty Felco secateurs. Weeds growing strongly, sign of healthy trees. So anything growing vertically I'm removing. Inward growing branches like this one, I probably don't need. I can use this branch. I try to keep the front open. Keeping the front open is one of the great fundamentals of bonsai. The front always should be slightly open to show the beauty of the trunk. That's the front, this is the back. Although the back is not as important as the front, I should still keep it tidy. Create the pads where I can. And get rid of the unwanted branches. What a lot of growth. It's nice to have this choice. If you didn't have a lot of growth, you won't have the choice to decide which to remove, which to keep. So we're always grateful that we have a lot of choice. So these upward pointing branches I'm getting rid of. Too many branches I don't want, there's too much there. Let's look at the tree from the front again. So that's the front. That way. So I'm creating some order out of disorder. There's such a tangle of branches. It's all growing higgledy-piggledy. So you can see the structure of the tree again. Just look at that structure there. So concentrating mainly on the trunk again. So that is what I brought the tree back to look like. and the new growth is going to be nice, soft and lush. So this is going to go into the greenhouse. I've got a few more to do, but I think I've shown you enough. So from this stage, I then get to this stage. This was done last year, so this has grown since the spring. I structured it in last year, so you see all the lush growth that I've got. So once you get all that lush growth, you just prune it back. These were grown in the shade, by the way. That's why it's looking so nice and green. And they're going to be put into one of our deep plastic bonsai pots. Now this branch, if this is the front, is in the way. Show a bit of the trunk. These berries I should prune back, but it's too nice, I'll keep it. So as I say, this will become like this next year with new leaves, and this is now going to go in the bonsai pot. So this is how we deal with our pyracanthas, and I hope you've enjoyed this little lesson of mainly growing in gravel to thicken the trunk and then cleaning up the structure and getting the structure right. There you go. Thank you.